Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Beyond Plastic Bermuda's third webinar of a four-part webinar series on single-use plastics in Bermuda. Thank you to the BEDC for organizing and the Bank of Butterfield for their sponsorship. Without the help from these two organizations, this series would not be possible. Today, we are joined with four members of Beyond Plastic Bermuda: Eric Hetzel, who is also representing Bermuda Environmental Sustainability Task Force, also known as BEST, and three volunteers from Beyond Plastic Bermuda: Tony Prentice, Katie Berry, and myself, McLean Smith. Recordings of our previous two webinars are available on our YouTube channel and on BDC's YouTube channel. We will have a question period at the end, so please feel free to send any questions through the chat box below. The webinar today highlights alternative business models to avoid single-use plastics, some opportunities where entrepreneurs can achieve success in the sustainable product sector, and we also provide some great examples of what is already being done locally and in other jurisdictions to decrease single-use plastics. One second here. In case you are new to these webinars, a little bit about us. Beyond Plastic Bermuda is a campaign that was spearheaded in 2021 by Keep Bermuda Beautiful and the Bermuda Environmental Sustainability Task Force. We now operate with around 12 volunteer team members that have experience in the environmental sector, education, retail, legislation, and marketing. We did start Beyond Plastic Bermuda with 4 key areas in mind. These areas are our guide to our overarching mission. The first being innovation. So this is creating new plastic-free products, developing alternative business models to avoid single-use plastics. The second is education. This means supporting our community in understanding why eliminating SUPs is necessary. Thirdly, inspiration. BPB is hoping to inspire a culture shift where our community can embrace new models of sustainability. And lastly, legislation. Our team actively researches other jurisdictions globally to advise the government on what is best and most appropriate course of action is here in Bermuda. I will now pass the mic to Katie Berry to take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. When the Beyond Plastic team started working together, we really felt that where there's change, there's opportunity. So we decided that putting time and energy into looking at alternative business models and opportunities was an important part of what we needed to do to move Bermuda beyond plastic. As we all know now, plastic does not go away. All of us need to stop the global single-use plastic binge together. Plastics are everywhere, affecting the environment, human health, and future generations. Many ask then, why target single-use plastic? Well, 40% of plastic made each year is single-use, and most of these items can be easily replaced. Can we move the slides on? Can everyone hear me? Next one. Perfect. And for us here in Bermuda, there's a laundry list of health effects which correspond with Bermuda's biggest health battles: diabetes, asthma, cancer, to name a few. It is in our interest to decrease the chance plastic is contributing to these devastating diagnoses. Next slide. Let's start with a quick reminder of the items that were included in the government's policy paper. Plastic water bottles, plastic single-serving food containers, plastic-lined paper cups, products with microplastics, plastic cups, styrofoam containers, plastic utensils, plastic-stemmed cotton buds, biodegradable and oxo-degradable plastic, plastic bags. If we break these items down and look at the alternatives or solutions, it becomes clear where the space for innovation is. Then we can look at what models are already being used around the world and what might work in Bermuda. We all know that what might work elsewhere might not work in Bermuda due to our unique culture and, most importantly, environment. So let's take one of the easier ones: plastic cotton buds. Now, these are easy because most retailers in Bermuda, grocery stores, are already stocking the cotton buds that are made with cardboard instead of plastic. So this one, I really don't think Bermuda is going to feel the impact of that change. Products with microplastics. This is something that pharmacies and grocery store buyers are going to need to pay close attention to, but many countries have this ban already in effect where we're sourcing our products from. And so there are lots of alternative beauty products on the market. And most beauty brands have made the switch already and taken microplastics out. So we don't foresee this to be a problematic part of the legislation. So for many of the other items on the list, we need to look at environmentally friendly replacements, ways to reuse, and to encourage individuals to refuse. Ultimately, we're looking to embrace models where we don't create more waste, but models where we reuse. And these kind of closed loop systems ultimately mean less waste and less cost. So simple examples of these are utensils. So plastic utensils immediately after being used become waste, and they're damaging to the environment. So looking at using reusable, so all of us taking our own reusable utensils on picnics and or using bamboo options, make this an easy change. Plastic bags. Well, Bermuda has done a really great job at moving towards reusable bags and paper bags in the grocery and retail settings. The big hurdle that I see that is left is takeout. Takeout is often put in single-use plastic bags so that it doesn't leak, I guess. And so we really need to find an easy alternative to the plastic bag in the takeout model. So there are two things that can happen. Customers can bring their own bag to put their takeout containers in. That's a simple reuse model. Or in the US and the UK, takeout restaurants are using their own reusable bag that is returned to the restaurant once the takeout has been used. So coffee cups and plastic lined paper cups. Individuals really should be using their own reusable coffee cups each day when they stop for their morning coffee. And this is really achievable in Bermuda because most people go every day to the same coffee house to get their coffee. And ultimately, if individuals make that switch, it's going to save coffee shops money. And so that's where you kind of want to look at your business model as a coffee shop and say, we want to encourage people to bring you reusables. So maybe offering them a discount for doing that will help reinforce that behavior change. So then there's containers. So this is an area where Beyond Plastic really sees the need for innovation in the Bermuda model. And we need new operational models as we as a country are very dependent on our styrofoam containers and plastic containers for things like soy sauce and ketchup and for takeout. So we just need to learn how to refuse. You know, for most people, they are having their takeout at home, so they can actually refuse the single-use ketchup because they can have ketchup in their own fridge. So we really need to look at encouraging people to refuse what they do not need, and to create a business model that allows the opportunity to refuse, and to also come up with reuse options. So next one on the list is the plastic cups. Reusable is really the way forward, but how do we do this? You know, we all grew up with the red plastic Solo cups. Well, not immediately, but certainly when I was in my early 20s and out partying, it was the red Solo cup. So how do we kind of change that pattern of behavior where we become so dependent on the single-use plastic cup? So because most plastic cups, those single-use plastic cups, are used for entertaining and outside pursuits, well, there are several models that are already in existence in Bermuda, such as glassware for hire models. It would be great if we could look at a different model that maybe has, instead of glass, is using a heavier, more sturdy type of plastic that can be used over and over again. I know the easy solution in all of this is to look at just replacing these items with environmentally friendly items. But you have to be careful, as this is where you can fall into the greenwashing trap. Compostable fiber-based containers, for example, are often coated in plastic, and so for all intents and purposes are plastic. And so this is where businesses in Bermuda need to be really careful. There is a lot of innovation in this space happening internationally, and ultimately Bermuda will benefit, but we have to be careful of labels because they're out there trying to confuse us. So the ones on the left, for example, be careful of those because they're not what they say they are. And what you really want to look out for is the one on the right. I think it's on the right on your screen. And this is the one, the only one in the world that says that that item is truly home compostable. And there's a big difference between home compostable and industrial composting. Industrial composting is composting in a high pressure facility, and we don't have one in Bermuda. But also, usually those items that are only compostable in an industrial facility actually can still contain plastic. And you would then be putting that plastic in the soil, which you would then see the negative health impacts. So you've got to be really careful that you look for the home compostable packaging when you're looking for reuse for models where they're still single use. So where is their possibility for innovation and new business models in Bermuda? Well, the first business model that we kind of feel really needs rethinking is takeout, as I mentioned before. The takeout plastic bag is an easy fix. You know, it's an opportunity for restaurants to have reusable bags and also to encourage customers to, when they're picking up their takeout, to bring their own bag and put their takeout inside of it. But let's look at some examples of what businesses in the wider world have done for actually to innovate where the containers are concerned. So the first company that I'd like to talk about is a company called Just Salad. They're in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Philadelphia, Florida, and Dubai. And the salad from this chain of shops comes in a reusable container, and customers can select the bring back the bowl, pickup or delivery, and then they receive an automatic email to remind them to return the bowl to a Just Salad location. And this could work in Bermuda. And certainly a lot of people have salad for lunch. And so having some kind of reusable container scheme for salads in our restaurants where people go for lunch is definitely something that needs to be looked at. The next one is Deliver Zero. So that's 130 restaurants that are participating in Deliver Zero. And takeout delivery is in these returnable, reusable containers. And if you don't return them within 3 weeks, the customer is charged about $3.25. There's an app, and the participating restaurants clean and sanitize the containers. This model might be successful in Bermuda if all the restaurants participated, because we certainly don't have 130 restaurants. And the containers were cleaned. We think actually, because space is often a problem in our restaurants, that containers would need to be cleaned and sanitized at a central location before being returned to the restaurants. So that is definitely something that a business model to be considered. Green to Go. This is in Durham, England, and this model is similar, but it has a $25 annual membership and requires you to drop your container at the takeout restaurant of your choice. It may be that a hybrid of this would work to replace takeout from grocery stores, and there's also an app to show you have checked your box in and box out so that you don't incur any charges for not returning your container. There is another company called GoBox, and this is a subscription for reusable containers and cups, and it has about 100 participating restaurants and grocery stores. GoBox manages all the logistics and the washing services. You check out the reusables from any partner vendor. So it would work in the sense of, if you were like we have Sargasso, you could actually check the box that said that you wanted to use a GoBox or that you had a GoBox subscription. And so you check out your reusable from the restaurant and you return it to a drop-off site using the app. to say that where you've returned it and when, so that you don't get charged. And that model works pretty well. And there are definitely parts of that application that I really like that I think would work in Bermuda. The next one is Dabba Drop. What a wonderful name. This is an Indian restaurant in the UK, and it's slightly different than the takeout model in Bermuda because this is based on the idea that you subscribe to having a weekly meal or every fortnight meal delivered by Dabba Drop to your house. And they're delivered by bicycle, and they're delivered in a stainless steel tiffin stack. Which would work really well for House of India and Ruby Murray's, and so this is definitely something that we would like people to consider. It's £15 per person for your meal and includes the container, and then the rider swaps the tins on their next delivery. So if you have it every week, they will just pick up the tins when they come the following week. And I think most people in Bermuda have a habitual Indian habit, and so this model really could be and work well. So the next company that we've been looking at is somebody called Kalibox, and she was actually visiting Bermuda, so we had a chance to meet her and talk to her. So Kalibox is a London-based company, and it's supported by grants from local councils. There's definitely an argument that maybe the Bermuda government or in partnership with BEDC or other partners might look at a model to help subsidize the startup costs of one of these reusable schemes. I mean, I think the team at Beyond Plastic would love to see the government kind of do something really innovative in this way. So participating restaurants allow customers to select the reusable container when ordering, which was similar to one of the other models that we looked at. And then it's tracked using an app. And it does require users to drop off the containers at specific sites. And this be achievable in Bermuda, where research shows that most households do get repeat takeout orders from the same restaurants. And we're not talking about huge distances, obviously, in Bermuda. The app in all of these companies, you know, they're all using technology, and so that is the piece that is probably the expensive piece, is setting up that technology. But, you know, just like we've seen Sargasso completely reinvent how we do takeout in Bermuda, we really believe at Beyond Plastic that there is an opportunity here to have technology help replace styrofoam containers in the takeout model, and to do it really soon. So we also have been talking to these different companies, and there is an option, and it should be pursued and talked about, is whether these companies would be interested in licensing its software to a Bermudian for a franchise type model. And in one of the companies in the beginning, you noticed that there's one in Dubai, and that was based on the franchise model. So that's kind of the reusable containers to replace takeout single-use containers. The next thing we need to really look at is the way that we shop. We already use reusable bags at the grocery stores, but where else is there a chance for innovation? And we really think that bulk buying is one of the starting places, and it's becoming more and more prevalent in the UK and the US. Our grocery stores in Bermuda, to be fair to them, are very space limited, and so it's difficult for them to really get involved in the bulk buying. And so this would probably, we think, need to be done or set up as an extension to their business, or to be done as entirely as a separate business. There's certainly plenty of sites available which would work well for this model, like the grocery store on the store that was never finished. And that really is looking at people taking their containers to the grocery store and filling them with rice, and it's based on a weight model. And we think that actually Bermudians would be, depending on the products, really interested in that bulk buying model. Increasingly, we've seen the success of things like Price Right and those kind of models in Bermuda, where people are buying more in bulk to kind of bring the cost down. And we think this would be the same with the kind of products that you would get, that you would do with bulk buying like this, with rice and beans and those kind of things. Another kind of thing that we think business opportunity is refilling of household cleaning products. We already do have this on island through Mortimer's and Miles, but there is more room for innovation in this space. There's no doubt. There's a great brand in the UK called eCover, and not only do they use a reusable model, but they're also not environmentally polluting. And this would be really good considering our septic model. So there's definitely opportunity there. And online shopping. So we're all starting to do it more and more, is to get our groceries and to do online shopping. And so there's a model in the UK called Loop, and they deliver all of the groceries in reusable packaging and refillable containers. So you'll have ketchup, for example, that comes in the original glass bottles like they did however many moons ago, and those bottles can be refilled and reused. And so it's time to really think of things like that, because obviously one of our biggest costs in Bermuda for business is shipping everything in. So if you can have these reusable systems and these different business models where you're reusing a glass container every single time, it reduces the amount that you're shipping in ultimately. So that has many, many levels of advantages. So next, another model that we really need to look at is how we party. Reusable glasses and cups, reusable catering platters, reusable cutlery. You know, we've become so used to convenience that it's so easy to just do everything in plastic. And I mean, I know for one, my kids' birthday parties, the big fruit platters and vegetable platters that you can get from the grocery stores are amazing, but I don't need those plastic platters afterwards. It would be great if I could return them to the grocery store and they'd be reused again and again. So the wine companies, Gosling's, Burroughs, Two Rock, they already offer a reusable glass hire model, but it would be good if this could be extended to reusable hard plastic for large events in Bermuda, like Cut Match, when we have soca concerts. You know, we've got big events coming up soon, like the Newport Bermuda Race, LGP, all of these kind of events where often you're waterside, and sometimes you're poolside, and so people don't want to use glass. So if we could encourage companies to look at offering reusable hard plastic containers for drinks, it would cut down on the amount of single-use plastic immediately. We also have a lot of local juice and drink entrepreneurs, and certainly at Beyond Plastic, we've been very concerned about this group of entrepreneurs. You know, their business models are small, and legislation like this could have a big impact on their businesses. And so, you know, is there an opportunity for a new business that supplies a glass bottle to all of these little juice makers? This has been successfully done in other countries where there's one type of container and it's several different sizes, and companies just add a lid with their branding. The glass bottle is then recycled in order to be reused, and the lid is either reused or recycled as well. We really think that there's potential here for someone taking on that model, and supporting the businesses, these small businesses. So one of the things that we thought of, you know, because as Beyond Plastic did their research and kind of walked through like how Bermudians behave and what they do every day, one of the things that came up is water refill schemes, because we're conscious that our, you know, landscapers and construction workers and delivery guys and, you know, they're out on the road all day. And so swinging into a gas station to pick up a plastic water bottle is just part of routine. And so if you're going to get rid of single-use water bottles, which are consumed all over Bermuda right now, you really need to offer water refill stations across the island at key locations. So one thing that we've discussed is whether gas stations would be a great location to have refill stations at. A lot of people get their food from gas stations, from the buzzes that you find in gas stations and other concessions. And so if you had these water refill schemes, it would mean that these independent operators and sort of guys that are out on the roads all day, or women out on the roads all day, had an opportunity to be able to refill their water container, because obviously you don't have time to just pop home and refill. And it's hot. Bermuda is a hot climate, and we need to make sure that people have opportunity to get water if you take away the plastic water bottle. Obviously, larger water containers is a slightly different model, and that needs to be ultimately rethought, but not at this stage. This is really about single use. So one of the things, you know, we've been talking about today is about what organizations can do and what businesses can do. But I have to stress is that individuals need to help the change happen. We need to support our businesses in Bermuda in this change. And so what businesses need to do is encourage individuals. We're obviously at Beyond Plastic encouraging individuals to bring your own cloth bags to the grocery store or any store, to refuse straws, even ones that are supposedly compostable. You know, actually, do we really need them? Plastic cutlery and plastic bags. We all should be refusing plastic cutlery and plastic bags as much as possible. We all have the chance to buy beverages, soda, water in glass and cans. And, you know, you're going to see an increase in the amount of glass and cans in refrigerated cabinets. And so making that choice just helps support that business or, owner continue to make those orders, and to encourage the people that are importing to choose glass and cans to bring drinks, single-use drinks in. Everybody should be moving towards carrying their own reusable beverage container. Certainly all the children in Bermuda have to have a reusable beverage container at school, and so it's time for adults to follow suit as well, and to carry their own water bottles. Another change that individuals can make is to buy laundry detergent in boxes and not liquid in plastic, because those plastic containers that we all buy, it's a very destructive type of plastic, and the detergent that's in boxes, at least that is cardboard. Investing in reusable utensils and containers, we all need to make that shift and just make sure that we all have it. Buying in bulk where possible. There's no doubt that when you buy in bulk, you reduce the amount of packaging. Choosing cotton buds made out of paper and cardboard to avoid anything that has microbeads on it, and stop buying plastic wrap and baggies. That is definitely something that we all can do, and there are lots of ways that you can, you know, you've seen the rise in things like beeswax wrap as opposed to plastic wrap. And so, you know, putting some time and energy into giving what you do at home some thought. There are alternatives out there, and certainly a lot of our retailers are bringing in great products. You know, the Cook Shop, for example, has great alternatives to plastic wrap, and you can often find it in the grocery stores and different alternatives. So, you know, here we are. We've kind of got these business models, and we've got the things that we know that individuals need to make the change, and certainly businesses in Bermuda are making the change. So, but we want to hear more about it, because what we feel at Beyond Plastic is that we have a platform to really shout about what local companies are doing, making the change. So we actually share on all of our social media platforms, because our environmentally savvy consumers want to know who to support. And so if you go and look on our Instagram site or our Facebook site, you'll see shout outs to companies who are trying to make the change. And if you know of anyone, or you have a company that is making the change, please get in touch, because part of this is that we want to make sure that the consumer, that the individuals, that every Bermudian knows how to do this and where to go, and which companies are really making the change. So one of the things that I think that I keep on coming back to, and I think the team at Beyond Plastic are coming back to, is the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And that was said by Socrates a long time ago. So what we really want to do at Beyond Plastic, and we are so thankful to Butterfield Bank and to BEDC for supporting us in this, is we want to work with local companies who are interested in building the new. And so please reach out, please get in touch, because we have a team of people that are passionate about this and know a lot, and we've done a lot of research into all of these different business models, and we have lots of ideas, and we want to use those ideas in our connections to promote business models that really help support this change, because this change needs to happen, and it will happen this year. And so while it may be a phased approach, the person that really goes after building the new is going to be at an advantage over the person that is fighting the old. So keep up with us, keep up with the campaign. We are pretty excited about the future, and want to work with the community to navigate taking Bermuda beyond plastic. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully everyone's going to join me now and we can answer some questions.
Sorry about that, Katie. I was having tech issues.
That's okay. I had terrible tech issues last time. So, we've all been there.
So we have a question from Jessica. Is silicone an option to replace plastic containers? I haven't heard it mentioned as a substitute. Eric or Tony, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, silicone is generally considered far better than plastic. So there's a lot of reusable silicone containers, and they're generally considered safe and can be supported.
Are they easily identified as silicone, Eric?
Yeah, most of the time it says silicone on the labels, I think. The ones I've seen anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of silicone bags that you're starting to see in the States, and I'm kind of think that, I've seen them in places like the Cook Shop in Bermuda, but I think you'll start seeing them in the grocery stores, and they're like Ziploc bags, but they're made out of silicone, and they seem like a great alternative to the Ziploc bag for that kind of food container alternative. And also there are those great silicone, sometimes they're flowers or fish, and you can put them on top of food instead of cling film. And those are definitely stocked on island at lots of different retailers. So look out for those. But Eric, silicone's not technically plastic, is it?
It's not. It's got some similarities, but it's not considered plastic. Gets into very technical, esoteric discussion. I mean,
We have a note here that says she's been using them instead of plastic snack baggies. It's a good alternative to plastic as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Question here is asking where our email is. I can go back. It's right at the bottom, info@beyondplastic.bm. One second here. Someone's also noted, I saw a lot of silicone bags at Gibbons Company yesterday in place of plastic bags. So that's a good place to go if you're sourcing anything for a plastic alternative.
yeah.
Great. Well done, Gibbons. Gibbons has been very proactive actually about moving beyond plastic. They gave out those big bags in order to move everybody away from plastic bags, and so they definitely need to be commended for being part of the change.
People's Pharmacy is also a good place to go. They have a lot of tiffin work lunch boxes to take to work, or kids' lunch boxes.
Yeah, they're stainless steel ones. I bought 8 years ago, and they are still going strong. And as we all know in Bermuda, there isn't much that doesn't rust or break, and they are not rusting at all. So I highly recommend the stainless steel containers and People's.
Any questions about the business models, maybe? If anybody has any questions, that would be great.
There are a couple local wholesalers that will give you the name of, one called Greenhouse. They offer a lot of plastic-free alternatives. Mortimer's and Miles does refillable laundry detergent. So if you're looking for something to cut down in the laundry space, or even hand sanitizer, dish soap, they're good places to go.
Well, and now we have vendors bringing in the boxes of little laundry sheets as well. And so those are actually environmentally better for all sorts of reasons, because it's a tiny little box, and it's got like 150 washes in that one tiny little box. It's a cardboard
This is a really good point brought up. We provide food to the homeless using single-use utensils and sandwich bags, etc. How do you suggest we go forward with this type of model? I know we've looked into this with a couple nonprofits in Bermuda. Tony, I know you were speaking to one, if you want to share their point of view.
Well, I mean, really, we need to look for alternative products. I think they're mainly in the styrofoam and the polystyrene. It's going to be difficult. I mean, at one time, we really need to try and get them on an alternative product. I know Meals on Wheels uses the foil containers, which to some extent, if Eric wants to comment, are better than the polystyrene and the styrofoam.
They're better from the health perspective. They're not better
McLean,
from
can you?
the environmental perspective, unfortunately. So I think, I mean, those, the charities that are involved in feeding people, because it's repeat, it's usually the same individuals all the time, for an extended period of time. They're the perfect model actually for a reusable scheme. So we'd actually love to work with, such a charity to develop a reusable model. I mean, the only catch usually is, okay, there'd be a little capital outlay, but possibly a donor might step in to provide the containers, hopefully. But they have to be washed, obviously. So you either need a partner, say a restaurant after hours, or you would need an in-house, commercial dishwasher that can wash and sanitize the containers. Those are the real challenges. You actually know who the customers are, so you don't need technology to keep track of containers and things so much. So I think it's a great opportunity, and maybe you can send us an email and we could try to work with you. And talking about technology, I mean, a lot of these are technology driven solutions. So like Durham Green to Go and things like that. And I was just looking at one in New Zealand. It's called Again and Again. A lot of them are technology driven, but they have the luxury because they're very large populations and they're much, bigger draw, so they can offset those technology costs. In Bermuda, it's a little bit more difficult. So, a lot of these things can be done without technology. We were told about a company in New Zealand that did it with no technology. So it is possible, we believe, to do, technology-free applications. And also, we had long discussions with Colin Rigo at Sargasso. He's very forthcoming, very cooperative. He's very interested in partnering with people who, would do a reusable scheme using his technology, possibly. So those are all the things.
We have a question here. It says, could there be a compilation of such reusable products available in Bermuda in various categories? I think there's an opportunity for us to showcase this on our website that's launching. And if you also look on our Instagram and Facebook, we have a highlight up of local products, and those fall under different materials and different reusable products in their categories.
Yeah, the good news is it's changing every day. So, I went into the light store today at ESC, and they have a whole host of reusable products there, and and they've had some selection for quite a while. I know the little bookstore in St. George's, they have some reusable things. So everybody's adding products every day almost. It's great. It's actually hard for us to keep the list up to date, actually.
I think going back to the question regarding food insecurity in homeless shelters and providing food to the homeless, this is definitely an opportunity where we can work with you closely to find plastic-free alternatives that work for your food type as well. If you are a nonprofit that runs a delivery program once a week, there's an opportunity there to have them pick up the containers that were used, bring them back, clean them, and use them again the next week. But I understand the case of where you're providing food to the homeless, it's never necessarily going to come back. So a reusable scheme might be quite difficult. So we can talk about that if you just want to reach out to us at our email, which I can go back and share it.
Yeah, and there are definitely donors that are out there that are interested in providing containers for those types of nonprofits. So I think that's somewhere where we can help as well, is to point you in the direction of organizations that are particularly focused on reusable containers. Well, not necessarily reusable containers, but they're interested in helping nonprofits with these kind of changes.
We have another question coming in. What about reusable lunch trays, such as the ones used in schools? With a wash-up center that was mentioned when you bring the reusable containers back and you sanitize those. Some charities feeding the homeless have kitchens with dishwashers. So that brings us back to the reusable pickup scheme that we mentioned. But do we have alternatives for reusable lunch trays?
I don't think we have a list of them today, but lunch trays have long existed. There should be, I would hope there's still ample supply of, whether they be stainless steel or some kind of, hard, reusable, durable plastic. Again, our focus is really on single use, especially. Plastic has its issues, but certainly, plastic was invented because it was durable and lasted a long time. So in certain applications, airplanes, cars, and probably trays are a good place for plastic to be used. So,
Someone said, thank you, Eric, for the book recommendation, The Countdown. It was very enlightening.
Oh, good.
That's
It's
great.
good to hear. If anybody else hasn't looked that book up, please do. It's quite enlightening, yes. Scary maybe, but enlightening.
We also have a mention here that this person's been buying compostable mailer bags from a company called Nuisu. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I can put in the chat for an e-commerce website. However, the problem is that a lot of the clothing comes from the manufacturer still wrapped in plastic.
It's true. Yeah, I've heard of those reusable mailers. I think that was a good idea. We've even heard of, and we've talked to the local dry cleaners here, because dry cleaning bags is another, they're not on the government's list, but obviously there's a lot of plastic bags that go out of the dry cleaners. And there are sources for compostable dry cleaning bags now. Unfortunately, it's got to be tailored to the particular machines. So hopefully we'll see those in Bermuda at some point. So every industry is kind of getting on board with this effort, luckily.
I think that's all the questions we have for now.
Okay. Great.
But if anybody has any questions, please do email us, because sometimes afterwards, we've thrown a lot of information at you. So sometimes afterwards you'll have that bright spark and you'll go, oh, I wanted to ask them this. So please do send us a message if there's anything further you want to know. You know, we really enjoy this problem solving and working through problems and helping people understand where the opportunities are. So please do reach out.
Right, and please, keep up the efforts. I mean, even just a little bit of effort makes a big difference in this. And if you have a business idea and you're working on it, and we were contacted after the last seminar by someone starting a business, and I think it was, it was very enlightening for everybody involved to hear the business problems and to kind of work out the solutions. So yeah, please keep the information coming. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you for the fourth webinar, which is in 2 weeks.
Yep.
See you then.
And that's a slightly different topic because that is looking at how businesses can kind of re-examine their waste and move to more of a zero waste model.
So we'll see everybody then, or not see you, but we